Today on the show, it's the beginning of Young Justice Club, the show where we're going to be covering every single issue of Young Justice over 13 weeks. And in today's episode, we're looking at where it all began, with Young Justice: The Secret. Quickly before we get into the story, I am going to be talking a little bit more about Young Justice Club at the end, so if you're curious, stick around till then. So our story starts off with Robin being interrogated, and he is in serious trouble. Apparently he put thousands of lives at risk with his actions. He's being told to share his side of the story, and apparently it all started with a military convoy that was slinking through Gotham. Shortly after Robin saw this military convoy, there was some kind of evacuation happening upstate, so Robin got really curious and decided he was going to go and check things out. Turns out that Impulse and Superboy got wind of the exact same thing and had the exact same idea, but because these two are kind of loud, Robin wasn't able to sneak past the US Army and the Department of Extra Normal Activity. The military wasn't happy to see the boys there at all, but the DEA was actually very happy to see them because apparently they were moving some kind of creature upstate that could change its form to become like really toxic gas. And the military and the DEA couldn't battle this thing. They needed these boys to help. This creature had been in the DEA's care for a few years at this point, and it just escaped as they were moving it upstate. The DEO, the boys, and the army eventually came to a compromise. The boys had 2 hours to fix things. Otherwise, the army was just going to do an airstrike over all of these people's homes. Now keep in mind, these people had been evacuated, but people were gonna lose their homes. So the boys were under a lot of pressure. Shortly after the boys begin looking for things, Robin sort of becomes the de facto leader because he's the only one that knows how to form a plan. And Superboy was kind of like reluctant to follow Robin's lead, but Robin was like, we need a plan because we have Impulse, and do you really want to be charging into this without a plan with Impulse? And Superboy sort of concedes. Robin tells Impulse to go and pick up a containment unit from the DEO compound. Little does Robin know that Impulse actually picks up a malfunctioning containment unit. He doesn't do this on purpose or anything, he just wasn't paying attention because that's Impulse. Then he has Superboy sort of fly over the town so they can get a lay of the land. Once both boys have returned, they go up onto a cliff so they can spring into action. Also, there's this really cute part where Superboy is like, you know, if we ever get to be part of the Justice League, I don't know if we're gonna be that guy's teammates or his parents. And Robin's like, I know which one you're gonna be. And Superboy's like, no, I'm not the mum, I'm not the mum. I don't know, it made me laugh. So once the boys are on the cliff, they have Impulse sort of run around the town so he can canvass the town, really doing an in-detail search. And he quickly finds the creature. It was big, it was toxic, and it was smoky. But fortunately, Superboy was actually immune to its toxins, and Impulse ran too fast for the toxins to affect him. So the three boys were actually able to contain the creature quite easily. But once the creature was inside the canister, the three boys looked and it wasn't a creature at all. It was a girl that was about their age. This girl says, I don't know what they've told you, but I can promise you it wasn't the truth. She says that she has been a ward of the DEO for as long as she can remember. She has been stuck in an airtight room for all of her conscious life. They were observing her, testing her, and they hated her. They hated her powers, but also wanted her powers for themselves. But eventually she found a way to sort of slip out of her room and go exploring. And since she's ethereal, she went around undetected. And she quickly realized she wasn't the only one there. There were a bunch of kids about her age being tested on and observed by the DEO. Once the DEO found out what she knew, they decided to send her away so she would never see the light of day again. The three boys sort of talk this over and they realize when the doctor was briefing them on the situation, the doctor at one point slipped up and accidentally called the creature a she, sort of confirming that he knew it was a young girl all along. Once the boys all decide, yes, we're gonna help her, the girl actually lets herself slip out of the containment unit, and the boy's like, wait, if you could slip out of that unit all along, why didn't you just do that to begin with? And she was like, I wanted to make sure I could trust you. She then explains it was actually the DEO's plan to sedate her with oxygen once the boys handed her back over, when actually they were gonna kill her. The next thing we see is the boys actually handing over a canister to the DEO, and this thing is filled with gas that looks just like that girl, and sure enough, the DEO go to sedate her with oxygen, And as they do this, the canister explodes. Keep in mind, all three of the boys are being interrogated, so this is just like a story they're relaying back. So they're all asked in interrogation, is there any chance the creature survived? And the reality of the situation is, yes, the girl did survive. Turns out the gas that was in that canister was actually smoke from Robin's smoke pellets. The girl is so happy. She says she's gonna go live her life, be free, and when the boys say, wait, what is your name before you go away? And she goes, I don't know, and I'm gonna go find out what it is. And the three boys vow to keep this a secret forever. So once again, when the boys were asked if the creature survived, they all say, I guess it died in the explosion. Turns out it was the Justice League that was actually interrogating the boys, and they're sort of like having a discussion. They all decide the boys' stories match up perfectly, if a little too perfectly, but Batman points out, the boys know right from wrong. And while none of the Justice League trust the DEO, they trust those boys. And Batman even says they all have their little secrets. And that's where the story ends. It's crazy to think that this 24-page story would actually spin off to be the 50-issue giant that was Young Justice. Young Justice would have multiple specials and crossovers, and it's really interesting looking at the time that Young Justice came out of, where people weren't really feeling the Teen Titans anymore. You see, the Teen Titans had actually been failing for a while at this point. It had been getting sort of like lukewarm to bad reviews. No one really liked 90s Teen Titans. Even I'll say 90s Teen Titans was a mess. So with Young Justice The Secret and the story that follows this JSA World Without Grown-Ups, they wanted to see if they could do a superhero drama book still that was aimed at teens, but they really made it a lot more cartoony and a lot more exaggerated. So the drama was gonna still be emotion focused, but it wouldn't be as adult. It would be very young teen orientated, and people loved it because no one had seen anything like this in about 10 years at this point. But like I said, there was one story that followed this called JSA World Without Grown-Ups. You see, Young Justice The Secret wasn't enough to convince DC that this would work for a serialized series, so they had to do one more story to prove that this would work. And we're going to be covering that next week. So a bit more information on Young Justice Club. Like I said, it's going to be a weekly series where we're going to cover all 50 issues and all the spin-offs of Young Justice. At the moment, we're looking at about 13 weeks. It might be longer than that. I don't want to go over 15 weeks. I want the series done before the new year. In every episode of Young Justice Club, I will have links down below in the description to where you can get issues of Young Justice for yourself. So you can read along, you can read in advance, you can sort of take part in the comments, you can say, hey, I'm really looking forward to this story. So just keep that in mind. If you want to read ahead, links are down below to where you can get the issues. Okay guys, that is it for today. So what did you think of Young Justice The Secret, and are you excited for Young Justice Club? Please let me know in the comments down below. Also don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe to all of my social links. Don't forget to check out my Patreon if you want to support the show financially, or I have a PayPal donation link. All of that information is down below. But for now, my name is Faust, this has been Exploring Comics, and it is super effective.